my friend, are listening to Come On Man, a 3% Man podcast. I'm your host, Paul Bauer, and I am on the road to being a 3% man, just like you. If you're new to the show, this is a podcast for fellow students of Cordy Wayne's book, How to Be a 3% Man, and for men who just want to be better in general. We talk about dating, gaining wealth, being happy, and using the law of attraction to get everything we want in life. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Come On Man. If you haven't done so already, please like, fave, subscribe, hit those notifications. If you're listening on an audio platform like, Audible or Amazon Music or wherever you're listening to your podcasts, if they have a rating system, please give us a 5-star rating and leave an actual comment on why you like the show. Or even if you don't like it, but I'm pretty sure you would like it. Paul, you arrogant son of a bitch. All right, this week I have Paul Newton. He's been a follower and friend of mine on TikTok pretty much since the beginning. And he wanted to share his story with everybody. And he has an interesting one. Has he read How to Be a 3% Man? Not really. He's sort of cherry picked, as we like to say in the community, but he has learned quite a bit just in his own practice. And some of the principles he actually figured out on his own, like making his own list of wants and don't wants. He did that without reading a book, which was pretty interesting. Right now, he's dating a really great girl and he's pretty happy. And he found her after going on, 50 or so plus first dates and just really working on himself. It's a pretty interesting story. I think some of you guys might like it. Some of you guys might not like it, especially you guys who have put in a shitload of work and have read the book multiple times. But hey, you know what? Sometimes people stumble upon success. Some people work hard at it and they find success through other avenues. Who are we to judge, right? All right, I'll bring you this conversation with Paul right after this. If you guys are anything like me, you're tired of going to grocery stores, buying grooming products that are designed for men, but they just suck, or they smell girly. I also hate going to expensive department stores like Macy's and getting cologne that makes me smell like a little bitch. I want to smell like a fucking man, and I think most women want their men to smell manly as well. And that's why I've partnered with Duke Cannon. Duke Cannon has products for men. They have products that make you smell manly as hell. They have big ass bars of soap. They have really thick body wash. They have beard oil and beard balm. Hair care products. My favorite is their big ass bar of soap. Smells like naval supremacy. It is awesome. And I also buy all of their liquid cologne. It really makes you smell manly, and they have tons of different fragrances. In fact, I have some for each day of the week. Also, when you purchase from Duke Cannon, some of your purchase goes to help out veterans. And if you use duke.comeonmanpod.com, link is in the description, you get free shipping. Win-win. This stuff smells so goddamn good, and the ladies love it. Trust me. Again, that's duke.comeonmanpod.com. The link is in the show notes. All right, this week, my guest is Paul G. Newton. We've been friends on TikTok for a few months now. When I first met Paul, he was pretty frustrated on the dating circuit, but now he's met a woman that could quite possibly be the woman of his dreams. Leading up to that was an adventure, to say the least. What's up, brother?
How's it going?
It's going good.
Wow. I'm telling you, it was an adventure. I'm beyond an adventure. I got divorced. I've been divorced a little bit over a year, but I actually spent the last 7 years of my marriage basically divorced, living with a roommate.
Yes.
So I had a little bit of an edge on most guys that get a divorce, because sometimes it comes out of the blue. The guy's just working, he's doing his thing. He's not really paying attention because he's life, whatever, and they all of a sudden, boom, divorce, get out. Thank God I don't have any kids. Mm-hmm. That's one big thing about it. I don't have any children. Didn't have to worry about that. I rent because I move around a lot for my job. I'm a filmmaker. and I make commercials, things like that. So I no reason to buy something if I'm just going to have to move in a year.
Sure.
But boy, I got lucky by getting the 7 years of monogamy by myself. Me and just me and Pornhub, I guess. Well, no, that's not true.
maybe a little bit true. Maybe a little bit true. Yeah, no judgment though. You know, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that though, because I was married for 14 years, and I would say like the last 7 of those years was just miserable. Like I'd much rather go sleep on the couch than sleep in bed with my wife at the time. Yeah. There was times where I would actually set up a cot in my office, not in this place. This is my place, but at our old house, I would set up a cot in the office because I was like, I'm just going to sleep in there, you know.
Well, I didn't take it that far. I tried to do, but I tried to do what was right. I tried to salvage the relationship as much as I could.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my ex-wife is not the most brilliant tool in the shed. And, I mean, this is the kind of woman she was. I mean, I had to teach her how to use her feminine products for that time of the month.
Wow.
Yeah. I was married 20 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, she wasn't the brightest tool in the shed, which means I wasn't the brightest tool in the shed when I married her.
My ex, I wouldn't say she's definitely not stupid. She's smart. She's a tactician. You know, she had.
I wish to God I could say that about mine. I would have felt so much better about it.
She had the divorce like planned out months ahead of time. You know, she knew what she was doing. She waited until January of 2014 to file because there was going to be a new alimony law put in place that was going to benefit her pretty. Sucks. Yeah. So I can't say anything bad as far as like, oh, well, she was dumb, because she wasn't. She was actually really smart.
Mine, it was an idiot and decided to sleep with one of her coworkers without being sneaky about it. And I'm like, one day she handed me her phone because she's having a problem. Right. Talking to a customer service rep, and I noticed that one of the emojis that came up in the favorites was an eggplant.
Oh, good old eggplant.
Yeah. So I went into she's already given me her phone. So whatever.
Yeah.
I just barreled through her text messages and figured out that she had one time and the guy ghosted her. So I was like, yes, just to learn the hard way. Oh, and by the way, I immediately went inside and says, you're going to have to leave. And gone. 3 days out. Wow. And I didn't care. And God, it was so great. I swiped a credit card when I got divorced, and I'm like, party.
That's harsh, man.
I waited 7 years for this day. Thank God.
So you were looking for a reason to get out. I
wanted out.
See, I was a little bit opposite. I was one of those guys that, you know, like,
no kids. So I mean, my dynamic was just boyfriend, girlfriend at that point, really.
Sure. Yeah. So my parents are still together. Both my sets of grandparents are still together. So the way I always looked at marriage is, you know, till death do us part, unless someone cheats. So I was
same. That's what I was doing.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, this is my life, and I made a commitment, and this is how it is. So when she filed, it was like just a massive relief. You know, that part was the part that the
rest of it wasn't, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. The fact that she ran to Denver with the kids and was like, oh, I'm 5 hours away. I'm not bringing the kids back. That was a stressful moment. But the fact that she was gone, I was like, thank God. So
then it's on to the hoe phase, as we call it.
I wish it was that easy at that point. It was not.
It's easy for women to go to the hoe phase, though, and that's what really sucks, because guys, we look at it differently. We don't just run into a hoe phase.
No, but we so can.
We want to. Oh, we want to. We
so can. So, so taking a step back here, though, you mentioned that you have the setup, you make, you know, videos and commercials for a living, and I wanted to ask you about that on the podcast. So,
sure.
So I've always dabbled in like making videos and video editing and stuff, but how did you get into that?
I was working for a tech company out of Denver, Colorado. The company was owned out of California, kind of like your situation. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they were in Irvine, California, and we taught people how to use MTS servers, Cisco phone systems, things like that. SIP-T, blah, 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 blah. talking the foreign language now. But 2008, the tech bubble came along and burst, and it was over. I went from making 300,000 a year to zero.
Wow.
But the good news was I had about 80 grand saved up. I had my unemployment was $1,600 a month. My rent was $1,695 a month. So I was able to live out that rent and then move back to Arkansas. When that happened, I had enough money to where in unemployment at that time, Obama, he extended the unemployment for ever. So I was on unemployment from 2008 to 2011, $1,695 a month. Hell yeah. So I learned a new career, and that's doing this, which is what I did in high school. I was a photographer's assistant in high school for the local paid photographer guy. I did all the photos for the school and stuff like that. But I sold insurance for 20 years, then sold high-end technical training, and I got into this because this is what I do. This is what I always did, and no one in my life ever... I was surrounded by people who told me that I was no good and I was stupid. You're too fat, you're too ugly, you're too weird, you're crazy. Now, that was what I always heard. And, you know, that sucks. So for a long time, I was that guy with the ego that about this big, that if you looked at me wrong, I just went in the corner and cried. But one day in my 20s, I said, you know what? I guess we can cuss on this podcast, right?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So one day I woke up and said, you know what? Fuck this. I am tired of being everybody's fucking punching bag. I'm tired of being kicked in the nuts every time I turned around. And I decided to become a man. I decided to do what I want when I want. And if anybody doesn't like it, they can fuck off. And it's been uphill since. Great.
Yeah, that's a good place to be. So you mentioned that you do commercials. Are there any famous commercials that we've seen?
Nothing famous. It's mostly regional things. I've got one feature film I'm in, but it's got pulled from circulation, so you can't even see it at this point. I was the lead actor.
Oh,
Amy.
was that on Pornhub or no? I'm just kidding.
No. They restricted those. They said no, we're not showing that guy. No, it was on Amazon Prime for a long time, and then it got pulled because the distributor went bankrupt. And
wow,
it just disappeared. And that's fine. I was the actor, and it was a terrible movie called Neapolitan.
Okay.
I didn't like it.
I'm going to Google it after this. I'm sure I could find it on the pirate sites.
I don't know, man. It's not worth pirating. It's
well, I mean, pirating's free. I mean, it doesn't cost me anything. So
it's true.
So you know, it's funny. When we first started talking, and I used to watch your videos and stuff like that. One of the things that always comes to my mind is you remind me so much of the comedian Lewis Black.
Yeah, I get that.
Do you get that a lot?
I get that a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Little Lewis Black or Ron White, and then of course the people who are, not really paying attention. I get Chris Farley constantly.
Okay. I don't see those guys, but definitely like Lewis Black, because I kind of feel like your humor comes across like a little like cynical and stuff like his,
I'm an ass. See, I always tell the girls when I went out with the girls, I went on 50 first dates, 51 first dates technically.
Right.
I went on 50 first dates in less than 9 months and had 7 or 8 mini relationships.
Yeah.
Lasted 2 weeks to 3 months. I mean, I was packing them in. I just keep trucking, man. You don't just keep going. Don't stop. Right. But man, I'm telling you, sorry. I got a flashback just now and I can't remember what I was saying.
You were talking about your 50 plus first dates.
50 plus first dates. So everybody told me to quit doing that. They told me to stop doing that. Don't do that. You need to take a break and just be yourself and learn to be alone. They told me. And I'm like, fuck that.
I mean,
I'm not interested in that.
I do recommend that guys learn to be alone, but I feel like there's no reason why they can't practice while they're learning to be alone. Right?
Well, the first thing I did was write down. I literally did. I didn't. Now, one thing, I'm not a red pill guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a blue pill guy. I take some pills, but they're from my doctor, so that's all I can tell you. I've kind of glanced at the books that I bought the book. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And when I was reading through it, I'm like, duh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you do this?
Sure.
So for me, it's just kind of, I don't know. I never felt that I was special because I was told growing up that I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also learned to brag about myself a little bit. I used to be super damn humble. And you know what that gets you when you're dealing in sales, or if you're dealing with women, dating, it doesn't really matter. If you're dealing in those situations and you're humble and, oh yes, well, we'll make it work best for you, we're going to look out for you, you never get what you want. It's a human thing. It's a guy thing and it's a female thing. It works out to be the same exact thing for both. That's why I can see why those guys would put in their life, love, and career, because once you start being a man and having some balls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Life just turns out to be great.
It really does. And it's funny that you bring up sales, because one of the things that I've learned from, like Corey Wayne's book, How to Be a 3% Man. So you said you glanced at some of the books I talked about?
Glanced at the books, yeah.
Have you glanced at that one?
I went and read some stuff on the internet about it and some different pages here and there. Mm-hmm. I didn't actually go out and get the entire book. Okay. Because once I figured out that it was me that was the problem.
Right.
And I fixed that, then I was able to, then all of a sudden I'm getting 2-3 dates a week. I was dating 5 women at the same time. Mm-hmm. I'm 300-pound man. Mm-hmm. I'm not ugly, but I'm not the greatest looking guy on the planet, right? I'm not rich by any means. I have a cool ass job, but once I fixed myself, once I started saying, you know what, let's go back and be the man that I am. Mm-hmm. Bam, the women showed up on the door.
Got it. Okay. But so what I was saying about 3% Man, though, is he talks about how basically the dating process is very similar to sales.
It is.
And also, like, when you're dating multiple women at once, or spinning plates, as we like to say, it's almost like creating a sales funnel at that point. It really,
I never thought of it as a sales funnel.
It really is. It really
it's a sales funnel.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. It's
whoever gets the deposit down first wins. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much the highest bidder. So I don't know. It really is. And it's funny because I've done videos on that and how you can equate some of the stuff to the sales process. And I've had women get offended by that. They're like, you can't, you please don't associate dating with sales process. I'm like, but it is. Like, life is a negotiation.
Everything you do is a sales process. Right. Every interaction you have with every person is a sales process.
It really is. It really is. And people shouldn't take offense to that, because it's not an offensive situation. It's like, women that like a guy, I mean, they really are trying to sell themselves to that guy, right? Like, they're dolling themselves up. They're putting their best foot forward. Yeah. And stuff like that. It's the same thing. It's sales.
And if they're not, I agree with you 100%. If they're not putting out the work, if they're not trying to impress you, if they're not doing what they want to do, to make you want to be with them, then by God, drop them.
Yeah.
It ain't worth it, man. It's not worth it. Not 1 minute of your life should be spent on someone who isn't going to put in the effort.
Got it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%. It's so funny too, because before I got into this stuff, I was that guy that was like, I hope she likes me. Yeah. What can I do? Oh, I don't want to mess this up with her. But that's a really terrible mentality to have.
You already lost.
Yeah.
You've already lost. I hope they buy my stuff. I hope I can sell this to them. No, you've already lost. It's over before it began. And maybe you find someone you can click with and they can accept you for being that way. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee in the long run, there's going to be fights. There's going to be resentment. The whole 9 yards is going to come and creep into your relationship, and it's going to kill it in the long run.
It really will. Yeah. So you've glanced at some of the books I talked about. You mentioned offline that someone that's really influenced you though is Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
How's Jordan Peterson's work influenced you?
Well, I'm a kind of a student of psychology. When I went, I didn't finish college.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to be a journalist or a psychologist, and I figured out that those guys are going to make $30,000 a year
Mm-hmm.
in the 90s. And I'm like, I could sell insurance and make 80 and spend half of my time sitting on my ass. Hell yeah, I'm selling insurance. I quit school. Yeah. And I made 80, I made the money.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, if you're only going to make $30,000 a year, you're going to have $40,000 a year in $40,000 in student loans that you're going to have to pay off.
100,000 now.
Unbelievable. Yeah. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth 35,000. That's $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Forget it. I'm not interested. I go down to Arby's and work for that.
Yes.
And then, I can go do something else. But yeah, so I've always been a student of psychology, and, he really has, the biggest thing I think about Peterson is that he doesn't fall into line with the matriarchal narrative that our institutions and our people and our main culture is trying to push out on us. And while there's nothing wrong with that as much, there is something to be said for accepting men for being who they are. My DNA is male, which means I am different physiologically, if only 20 to 30%, but that's enough, than a woman. Mm-hmm. And the things that drive me as a person, that I know drive me, that make me want to be a better man, to make me want to go out and find a mate, a spouse, or whatever, are not going to be the same as anyone else, one, and very much less the same as any woman, because I'm different. I'm who I am. I am not you. You are not me. And it's individual responsibility. And that's what Peterson really gets down to. When he talks about stuff, it comes down to individual responsibility. And that's kind of a narrative that you don't hear very much anymore. Everyone wants to say, well, it's a community. It takes a community to raise a child. Yes and no. By the age of 2, most children are very aggressive. They bite, they steal, and they hurt, and they're conniving. Mm-hmm. But by 4, the parents have trained them to be sociable. Mm. And if by 4 they're not sociable, they never will be sociable. And these are things that you can go and find in the white paper for psychology. It's one of those things I'm interested in, and it really helps me in my writing. I've got 4 award-winning screenplays. I've won 17 different film festivals with my stuff. You can find me, paulgnewton.com. It's really easy. It's my name. Mm-hmm. But that psychology is what has helped me to write. So I'm glad I took the class, and I'm glad for Peterson to be in there, because I was worried that a lot of this stuff, and the same with you, Paul, mm-hmm. I was worried about not being right about mm-hmm. this stuff. I was worried about getting out there and telling people the wrong thing, right? Yeah. I was worried about giving the wrong advice because I'm wrong. I don't want to be wrong. But as we all know, we're humans, and sometimes we're just fucking wrong. Right?
Sometimes, yeah.
So, he reaffirms the kind of the innate things that I know about myself and I know about people that I've learned. In insurance, I had to learn to sell people in 15 minutes. I did it at the workplace. I was one of those guys that came in and said, you have to talk to me if you want your insurance benefits this year. If you don't talk to me, you don't get your insurance, even if you don't buy anything. For me, so you just want health insurance, nothing else. You still had to talk to me. So I had 15 minutes to talk to these people. So I was seeing between 6 and 8 people a day, and I worked on commission. So whatever I sold them was what I ate.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to read people, get to know what they were saying, get to know what they were doing in less than 3 minutes. So I knew the narrative to tell them. You can't sell everybody the same way. Some people are financially driven. Some people are emotionally driven, blah, 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 blah. I do know that if I wanted to sell a lady, emotions had to come in, but you also had to be very financial and very frugal. If you wanted to sell a man, it's bravado and financial, and he's going to be the man when he dies.
Right.
By leaving his money, and the wife's got a new house and she can go get a new boyfriend, and he's off in Never Land.
Yeah.
Right. It's particular tactics you have to use per gender, per person. And there's a sub list, of course, with the different personality types, but whatever. Right. But it translates exactly to finding a mate. And so first thing I did is I went and made a list.
Yeah.
This is what I want.
Yeah.
You know, and my first date, the coffee shop guy, he knows me.
Yeah.
I have this one coffee shop I go to because they serve alcohol.
Okay.
So we'd go down there, meet first date at the coffee shop. And if I like them, they get booze. If I don't like them, they get coffee.
Okay.
That's money, right?
Sure.
So the bartender's like, oh, this date didn't go too well, did it? And I was like, no, it didn't. Because he knew, because I didn't buy her any booze.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. Have you, it's funny that the coffee shop guy. Have you heard the episode I did with Chuck Kohout recently? He basically like had a bartender on his payroll to help him with his fucking dating sales funnel. It's insanity, but
I never, see, you know what's really the weirdest thing about the whole dating process for me though, is that I would say 30 out of the 50 came to my house for the first date.
The first date. They didn't even care. My man. All right.
I don't understand why. I thought it was a really dumb idea, but hell, if they're going to do it, fine with me.
I'll be honest. Yeah. For women, that's stupid on your part. It really is. I mean, for guys, if you have good intentions, I think you're a guy that probably has good intentions. Yeah. Women are probably safe with a guy like you, like doing that. And really, like, if they come to your house, like, it's way easier to close the deal. But, but from a safety standpoint, like, women really should be like meeting guys out in town and getting a feel for these guys before checking out. Because
this was just text messages. I was actually worried about the females coming over and like stabbing me or taking my stuff,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, there's some crazy women out there. I think like one of my first episodes, I had one called like Tale of Two Train Wrecks. Like, those chicks were insane. They were insane. There's no way I would have them. Well, actually, I had the second one over at my house, but that was after like, being going on a date with her out in town first. Yeah. And then me thinking, maybe this was a one-off, her being crazy out in town. No, she was batshit. So
I had one of those, man. Out of all of them though, I didn't really have that many that were crazy. Yeah. I had only about 9 of them got second dates out of me. I was being really selective. I wasn't interested. Yeah. They had any kind of emotional baggage or BS. I apologize.
That's smart though. No, it's smart though, because guys tend to overlook red flags, and certainly early on in that whole practice process, I was sort of like overlooking this chick's red flag. She was clearly like a drunk. I don't want to say alcoholic, because alcoholics go to meetings. She was a total drunk.
Meetings are for quitters. So.
Right. she out at the bar we were at got sloppy drunk, and on a first date, and it was just like, that should have been a red flag right there. But I was like,
pound town and leave whatever the.
I don't believe in sticking my dick in crazy.
I'm teasing.
I didn't sleep with her, but she came over to my house, and
well, that's one thing I would never do is if the girl got too drunk, no matter what she wanted me, I would not.
Yeah.
If they're too drunk and I'm even slightly sober, no, I'm not going to touch you with the 10-foot.
Right. That's bad juju. I did a video yesterday at the time of this recording
about consent.
And some guy in the comments is like, well, that's, this is how women cry rape or whatever. I'm like, not if you do it right, but if you get a chick like totally trashed and then you put the moves on her, she absolutely can cry rape. So
the mitigating factor is if you're trashed.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're trashed and she's trashed, it's a tough one.
So you're saying I'm going to write this down.
Get trashed.
Get trashed. Just kidding. Yeah.
Well, I mean, legally, if you're trashed too, there's really, you can say the same thing about her.
Sure.
You know, I mean, they do consider that, but man,
it's not smart. It's like, let's just...
what I always did though is whenever we were, I mean, basically the deal was sealed for the ladies that I was with physically, but before, I mean, we're right there at the moment, and I would always stop, look them straight in the eye. Mm-hmm. Are you sure that you're okay with this? I just need you to tell me it's okay.
Mm-hmm. So
not in a, I want you to tell me it's okay, but I need you to tell me it's okay.
So you're a consent guy.
Well, because I don't know these women that well. And it's not like I spent 6 months courting them or something. I don't know these women that well. So I'm like, hell no. I live in a college town. There's a lot of liberal ladies here, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But at the same time, I want a yes out of them.
Okay.
If I don't get a yes, I'll cut it. I'll cut it off, back off, put my clothes on. I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Me Too movement really pushes for that. So it's
what I do for a living too, I could pop at any moment and start making real, higher end films. I don't need that following me around.
Yeah. I mean, look at, what's the guy from that 70s show? He was on the Ranch on Netflix and got fired from it because he got Me Too 20 years ago, something he did 20 years ago came
when
out.
It was acceptable.
Right.
And everybody was like, oh, no, don't worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not fair at all.
It's an unfortunate world that we live in now. I want to go back real quick to what you were saying though. You said that you sat down and wrote a list out.
Yes, I did.
In Corey Wayne's book, How to Be a 3% Man, and in Dating Essentials for Men, which I talk about a lot, they both talk about doing that, writing out a list of qualities you want in a woman and qualities you don't want, and really focusing on the qualities that you do want. And then if anything shows up in the qualities that you don't want, you immediately cut them loose because those are your red flags,
Yeah.
So that worked out well for you.
Well, if I can elaborate, it's kind of an interesting story. So I got divorced, and the first couple of months, it takes 30 days, a 30-day waiting period in Arkansas before you can, guess where I'm at is Arkansas, before you can get granted a divorce. So at the end of 30 days, that's when the judge will sign the paper. You're done. Right. Until then, you're legally married. I don't know if there's any extras to that where you can expedite it. So don't ask. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So, I've met this chick at the smoke shop because I like to have my cigars, and I go down to the smoke shop and pick up stuff. And she's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, cool. All right. I was actually hitting on the other girl at the smoke shop. And I gave the other girl my number, not knowing she was married and had like 60,000 kids. And he passed my card. I literally, this is how I did it. And I did this many times. I used to walk up and say, hey, how are you doing? Here's my card. It's got my phone number on it. I would like to go out with you. Please give me a call. That's the kind of shit that I pulled, and that shit works. It's weird. But so I gave her the card, and she passed it to her friend. Her friend called me. And so I got hooked up with this chick. Now she's completely tattooed. She's only 29. She's completely tattooed. I'm 47 at the time. And I thought it was okay. I didn't care. I really don't care. She had, these rings and things in her nose and stuff like that. And I told her, I said, I don't really care for them. It's not kind of weird looking to me. So she took them out. So she started trying.
Okay.
The day my divorce was final, that chick showed up when no one else did. I was going to have a divorce party.
Yeah.
None of my friends showed up, which shows you what kind of friends I really have.
Right.
So none of my friends showed up, but she did.
Okay.
And she showed up and had a drink with me, went on. The next day she came back and it was on for 3 months.
Okay.
But from her, I decided I wanted to make sure that I wasn't making the same mistake I just made, because I just got out of a 20-year marriage.
Right.
I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm not going to do it, period.
Yeah.
So I wrote down the things about her that I liked, about things about her I didn't like. And that morphed into a list of things I wanted in a relationship.
Okay.
And what I can say is that all the ladies that I dated, except for this last one that I'm still dating, they were heavy pot smokers.
Yeah.
Which is really weird. It's like the thing to do these days. All the women, no matter the age range, are huge pot smokers. And I don't smoke weed, so
me neither. And my running partner, who appears in my TikToks a lot, Tyrene, total fucking pothead, and it drives me fucking nuts because she'll smoke a bowl and then want to go run 15 miles. I'm like, how the fuck are you doing that? Your lungs are like trash right now. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
So, but it turned into that list, and so she asked me. She said, "Paul, you want to start a family?" Blah 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 blah. I said, "I don't know. I just got out of a marriage. I don't know, but I let's like date for a couple of years." I told her, "Let's go. Every 6 months, we reevaluate the relationship." Well, 6 months is about to roll around, and she just ghosted me.
Oh, okay.
But what I had done is I had overlooked all the little places that she violated my rules, the things that I wanted. And I realized right then and there, this is how it works. This is my list. They have to hit every one of them.
So you came up with the list concept on your own.
Well, it was the only way I could figure out how to deal with it. How am I going to decide if this person's going to be good or not? Because I'm not going to be, I was already burned for 20 years and now I got burned out of 4 months. I'm not going to be burned again.
Got it.
You know? Yeah. I get tired of being burned. I'm going to find somebody who's going to stick around, or I'm not interested.
Yeah. Which is smart, which is exactly what you should do. So that's awesome that you came up with that on your own.
So that's where that came from. And it came up out of self-defense. That's what it did. Okay.
So now you're dating your dream girl. How did you meet her?
Well, Andrea and I met on Hinge.
Okay.
Of all things. I was getting most of my dates off Facebook dating.
Okay.
I got 0 responses from anything else. I did get one of my many relationships off of Tinder, but that woman also had her side dick, right? But that was okay with me because I had my side chicks.
Sure.
I was dating 5 women at one time. One of them was her.
Got it.
So I tell you, I can't date more than 3 women at one time. I did 5. That's just too many plates for me, man.
I think like 4 is my limit. Yeah.
5, I was going to die. I was getting drunk and going, yeah, did I tell you about this? And they're like, no, you didn't. I was like, oh shit, I got the wrong one again.
Yeah. I've gotten to, like, I've texted the wrong one. Something.
Yeah.
I've done that. And I'm like, oh shit, wrong conversation.
I got one up on you. I was dating a Shanda, a Shannon, and a Shoshana at the same time.
That would have fucked me over, dude. I would have blown that.
I quit trying to say their names. I just started going, hey, you.
I did get to the point where I stopped saying names just because I was like, I don't want to say the wrong name. I don't want to call the wrong name out.
Same.
I don't. So it's just
I have nicknames. I have nicknames for all of the chicks.
Okay.
Isn't that weird? And I figured that if I give them a nickname, it must mean that I don't really like them though, too.
You know what though? I disagree with that.
I don't know. I'm figuring that out.
So I refer to all the women I've dated on this podcast by nicknames, but mostly because I'm trying to, keep them anonymous. Because I'm sure
my stuff is public, so
I don't want them to ever think that I'm talking about them specifically, or be able to, say, oh, in this episode, you're talking about me or whatever, or them getting mad at me. So they all have nicknames. And until I've like dated a chick considerably for a long time too, when I'm talking to people in my like local friends group, I refer to them as nicknames. So I was at Tyrene's house for like 4th of July, and she had a bunch of her friends over, and she was telling them about my girlfriend, Nurse Chick. And they're like, well, what's her name? I'm like, it's Nurse Chick. And they're like, you don't even have the dignity to give her a name.
They've probably pissed them all off.
They were so mad. And I was at the party just laughing. I was like, look, I have a decent following on TikTok. I have an international podcast. I don't want their names getting out to people. I like to keep them anonymous. And they're like, oh, sure, that's what it's about. You're just a pig or whatever. And I was just like, well,
I make sure I tell all of them exactly what's going on. When I was dating the 5 women at once, I was like, I'm dating 4 other women. Mm-hmm. Would you like to go out though?
Yeah. And
they still went out. Because that's the thing. It never backfired on me once, just to tell them the truth.
Yeah, women, and it's funny too. Like in 3% Man,
love competition, don't they?
They do love competition. In 3% Man, he talks about being vague about it, and letting them sort of like run the hamster wheel, because well, a lot of people do that and it works for them. But he talks about it because it, you're not like, it lets them, the hamster wheel run, and they actually like a guy with options. So that makes you more attractive. And so, I mean, either way,
it makes you more valuable. Yeah.
It's the same deal. It's the same.
Well, it's peer pressure kind of thing. Back in high school, they all wanted to date the guy with whatever. Right. Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's the reason they do that in high school is because it's built into who we are. Mm-hmm. Guys want the hot car. They want the hottest tech. Right. Yeah. Because it's the hottest thing. And the perception of having everything. And it's kind of the same way in relationships too. And it makes sense, because do you want the guy that can barely put food on the table, or do you want the guy that can go out and kill a bear?
Right.
Well, of course you want the guy who can go out and kill a bear and live through it, because he's going to continually kill bears, and your babies are going to be fed. Mm-hmm. And well, you're being an asshole. Well, not all the time do men have to go out and find the food. Well, historically, before we get into modern civilization, if you want to go technical about it, they did want the big guy who was going to be able to take down a bear and defend from other big guys. Because, that 2-year-old's running away. What are you going to do? Somebody else is going to have to keep the horde of assholes out of your freaking food bin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's actually funny. Morgan May. Do you follow Morgan May at all?
I may. Sounds familiar though.
She's been on the podcast a couple of times. She does a lot of she does a lot of videos about how women need to find higher value men and shit, right? Like she's basically teaches women how to be gold diggers. I love you, Morgan. You're right. You're all right though. So anyway, one video she did recently was she was trying to talk about the benefits of like why marriage benefits men. And she was saying how, basically before marriage was invented, women would flock around the high value man, and he would basically have a harem of women. So the concept of marriage benefited men because it gave them a little more equal access to procreation rights, because before then it was like all the women would go with one guy, and then a lot of guys just wouldn't be able to procreate because
chimpanzees do the kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
The chimpanzee female is not selective in her mate. She doesn't care. Mm-hmm. It's our closest relative, and the chimpanzee male, he has to go knock out the other guys, but he can't be a tyrannical bastard, because if he is, it only takes 2 males that are half as strong as him to gang up on him and remove him.
Yeah.
Right. So there has to be some give and take. There has to be some hierarchy. And it kind of translates, but in humans, the female is the selector, is a sexual selector.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely opposite from our nearest ancestor. And all I know is that if you're a nice guy, you're not usually a nice guy.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you in your head. There's something wrong with your personality. Like I was overly abused mentally as a kid growing up. I grew up with with what I would call they're not really narcissists, but they're close to it. Narcissistic type father and brother. My brother's 9 years older than me. And I was always told, he would look at me and say, how do you expect to get a girlfriend looking like that? I'm like, looking like what? It's just me. Mm-hmm. Right? So I went through that. I understand what it's like to feel that way. But, they're just trying to make you like them to make up for their inadequacies. Mm-hmm. That's all that really matters. So they're not taking care of their house. They're trying to get you to fix your house to what they think it should be like so they can feel better about themselves. And that is absolutely not the way to do it. That's why I like Jordan Peterson, because and that's what I've always strived to say. I fix my house first. I put myself in order, and I'm going to be able to get whatever I want out of life.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be an asshole about it, because I tell the girls, they say, what kind of man are you, Paul? So, well, I'm an ass, not an asshole. There's a distinction between the two. I'm an ass, but I'm not an asshole. So I'm not going to leave them on the side of the fucking road just because they yelled at me.
It's kind of like the how I always say, you could be a good guy, but you can never be a nice guy. Same.
Don't be a nice guy. Yeah. Nice guys don't finish last because the women don't like nice guys. Nice guys finish last because they're broken. Nobody wants a broken person.
A thing about nice guys that self-proclaimed nice guys don't realize is that they're only being nice because they, oftentimes because they are trying to get something out of somebody, not because they're genuinely a good person, know? So there's like these unwritten contracts in their mind. Like, well, if I do this, you owe me this.
Yeah.
And then they play victim a lot, and
women do it too, but they don't do it in the nice guy fashion like we do as men. Mm-hmm. They do it in a completely different way, and they say that you owe me. They're compensating for things that they feel they're short on, and that's when you get the women that really, they're gold diggers. They owe me. Why does anyone owe you? If she felt, that's why a lot of beautiful women get away with being jerks, and the men owe me, right?
Yeah.
Well, the only thing we owe you is respect. And if you can't respect yourself, why in the hell would we give it to you ours? Why would we give you ours?
I actually don't think people are just owed respect either. Respect is something that you earn.
Yeah, I feel a little bit different about that. I did a TikTok on it, and I had a few TikToks out there that I made for promotional purposes, but I figured, whatever.
Sure.
And just to show that I could do it, because it's filmmaking thing.
Right.
But I Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Gary Vaynerchuk's like, no, I trust you, love you explicitly from the bat, right off the bat. I don't even know you. And I don't wait for you to break that trust. But if you do break that trust, we've got a problem. And Steve Jobs was kind of that way. A lot of other high power people are that way. If you go and find some of the talks on these kind of things, I think it is a good thing to trust people. But not not to the point that you're letting them drive your car and, have sex with your wife or something like that. But, trust them give them not the golden hammer, but at least a screwdriver where they can come in and tinker a little bit. So you trust them.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's a better place to be, because when you do that, you allow people to be themselves, and they don't feel like they have to prove to you who they are. And then you're going to find the real person faster.
I also kind of feel like you're going to get taken advantage of a lot, though.
People consider it sometimes me being taken advantage of. I consider it karma. I know that this is going to happen, and I've got a bucket that I can use with my emotions that allows me to do it without getting butthurt, because I've set myself up to know that 1 out of every 4 is going to abuse the privilege as long as I let them, which I don't let them very long. If you're abusing me, you get 2 chances, you're out. I'm not going to put up with it. I don't care. The people don't understand. People just don't understand that about me. They say, you're kind of an asshole, Paul. No, I'm not an asshole. You're the asshole. I'm just protecting myself at this point.
Got it. Okay. That's fair. Shifting gears a little bit. I talk a lot about, or at least I mention it quite a bit, about men focusing on their purpose or mission in life. What would you say is your purpose or your mission right now?
My purpose, singularly, and is always to make myself a better person and to make sure that I'm doing what's making me happy. Not in a selfish way, right? I'm not taking from others to make myself happy. What I mean is internally, is this relationship correct? Is this working out for me? Do I feel like I'm being treaded on? If that's the case, then I have to quit. Past that, as far as, that's the number one thing that I do. I make sure that's done first, because that affects my career, my love life, my life with my parents and my friends. If that's not straight, then everything else goes to shit, right? But past that, I'm hoping to be in California this next summer in 2022, on a film set. That's my goal. Is I'm trying to make films. COVID fucked all that up, because if it wasn't for COVID, I would have been out in California as soon as I got divorced. Okay. I would not be here, or Atlanta, one of the two. I wouldn't have been able to go out of the country, because at the time I still had an IRS problem, because the company I worked for didn't pay my income taxes that they collected from me. So that was nice of them, but that went away, thank God. But I would have been in California. And I would have been on my career path. But now COVID, everybody's out of work in California doing what I do. So it'd be kind of dumb for me to go out there with no connections.
Sure.
To just blow and go. And I'm not 20.
Right. Right. Like you got to eat somehow.
Exactly. I can't check up with, the 20-year-old and her mom and dad. So,
Oh, I mean, you could.
I probably could.
One of the things that I like to talk about on TikToks is sort of, or at least I try to do, is to encourage guys, not just be better with women, but to be better in general, mentally, physically, sometimes spiritually. What are some things that you're doing in those 3 areas to be a better man in general? Well,
always look at yourself. Always look at yourself. If you're screwing up something, it's and it's not just because you're dumb. If you have an 80 IQ, forget what I'm about to say. But if you're a normal person and halfway smart, and you're screwing up stuff because your life is in turmoil, then that is a symptom of a problem that you have mentally. Not everybody handles it the same. Not everybody can. I got balls that clink. I'm not even afraid of nothing. So for me, it's not a big deal, but not everybody's that way. And reiterate the rest of the question to me.
Oh, so basically I feel like men need to work on themselves, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So
men and women.
Yeah. But this podcast is geared towards men. So
yeah, well, there's some women that listen, so
sure. But so yeah,
sure. You don't sound so confident in that.
Well, I know the analytics, and 95% of men listen to this.
teasing.
So there's like a 3% women, and then like 2% non-binary, whatever that fucking means these days. That listen. So
all it takes is a quick check, and you'll know.
So anyway, yeah.
Sorry.
Just look down. I'm gonna get fucking hate mail for this. Cut
it out.
You can't cancel my podcast, fuckers. Anyway, you might be able to get me banned from TikTok, but you ain't canceling my podcast. So anyway, yeah, and those three areas, mentally, physically, spiritually, just how do you try to develop yourself?
Well, spiritually, I do have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. It's real. That's up to this when it comes to spiritually. That's up to the individual. I mean, I'm a conservative Lutheran, so I'm not an evangelical or anything like that. So this between you and God, man. And if you don't believe in God, then I guess you need to find something to be spiritual about. Mm-hmm. Do yoga. I don't know, whatever. That's as far as the spiritual is concerned, but like healthy, I'm kind of an outlier. I go as far as physical health goes. I mean, I go in and get my annual checkup every year, and my cholesterol is fine, my blood pressure is fine, everything's fine, but yet I weigh 300 pounds. The doctors always say, you need to lose weight. You're going to die young. I'm like, okay, what other symptoms do I have? They did nuclear medicine on my heart. Fine. Mm-hmm. I'll die of a heart attack tomorrow because I said this, but who knows?
Knock on wood. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, right. But if you're not feeling well, then you should definitely take care of your health. But don't feel like a minor, especially the older you get. Started dating older women. We're talking 35 plus. They start to not care. Mm-hmm. In general. I mean, you're going to get the ass bitches, but whatever, don't listen to them. They ain't worth your time. Mm-hmm. Just because they're good looking and beautiful, they're not worth your time. Take a woman get a woman that's going to support you mentally. And if she's not going to put that effort in, because you need to support her mentally too. It's not just a one-way street. I mean, it's the same as just hanging out with your best friend. Do you tell your best friend he sucks and mean it? No, probably not. If you do, then your best friend's got a problem if he's hanging around. You got to look on positive. You got to be positive. It's when I was dating the women, I would get just some of the nastiest comments sometimes. And all I thought was I just channeled your thoughts, Paul. Mm-hmm. He weeded herself out. Mm-hmm. She's a bitch, and I don't want anything to do with her. And probably everyone around her hates her. And last thing I want to do is live in that world. So I never took it personally. It's not my fault. That's what I do for my own sanity. Mm-hmm. This ties into your question. When I was turned down, it's not my fault I'm turned down. That's their fault. Because if they were open-minded and nice and liked to have a good time, I never went after a churchgoer because that's not going to work for me. But I knew that, so I didn't, I was like, oh, you go to church? Depends on the church and how much, but whatever. Mm-hmm. But, the women that I was compatible with, we had the same ideals. If they turned me down and told me no, that's her problem. Mm-hmm. It's not my problem. And it never is. If anybody's listening who gets upset about that, it's not anything you did. Because if she liked you, it wouldn't matter what you did as long as you were trying to be with her, and she would reciprocate. If she's not interested, she's not interested, and you're not going to change it. And it's her problem, not yours.
I agree with all that. All right, I got one more question for you, and then we'll wrap this up.
I hope I gave you some good stuff to use. I hope it wasn't too damn boring.
No, we're at an hour now, so yeah, lots of good stuff. So
I can't shut up, so there's that.
So one thing I like to ask most guests that come on, the only time I don't really ask this stuff is or for people like, like, well, actually, I think I asked Emily this question, but, guys like Chuck and those guys that like, I know they've never even like heard of like 3% Man. Like they only really like follow my, my TikToks or whatever.
Yeah.
Some
men really need to read those books too. I mean, it's unfortunate. No one's ever taught them how to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
And, be a man.
Yeah.
Put some armor on your balls and go out in the world and get them kicked a couple of times and revel in that. Make that a great story later. I mean, I could tell you some stories that will curl your toes. There's a lady that I call Peggy as her nickname. And guess why? Yeah, we didn't last long.
Maybe that'll be another podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
So I talk about like what a 3% man is on TikTok all the time. And, but I just want to ask you, like, what does being a 3% man mean to you?
Being me. I'm not like the other people. I don't care to be like other people. I am me. I do what I want when I want. I respect other people. I'm not an asshole. If somebody needs help, I fucking help them. I don't have to let them know I'm happy about it. But being a 3% man is being myself, doing my thing, protecting myself and the people I care for. And if they get out of, if they're trying to hurt me, I cut those people off. I don't allow it.
Okay. I think that's good. All right, Paul, where can people find you?
PaulGNewton.com or Paul G. Newton on Facebook, Twitter, Paul G. Newton on TikTok. It's all branded Paul G. Newton. I make films for a living, a lot of commercials lately. When I'm starting to work on doing some narrative fictions, what I call that, and then narrative fiction is going to be some shorts to showcase how I can shoot. I can also find any of my writings. I got a whole blog, and I've got a podcast myself. If you want to learn how to be a filmmaker, I need to update it, but it's also on paulgnewton.com. You can find it there, and feel free to reach out if somebody wants to ask me a question. If you're going to give me a hard time and give me the riot act, guess what? I won't know because you'll be blocked. So
yeah.
I don't put up with it. There's no reason to. You be nice to me, I'll be nice to you. I don't care if we disagree about everything. It doesn't matter. I can still be your friend.
Life's too short to feed the trolls.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't have, of all the women that I dated, 51 women, including the one I'm dating now, not one of them hates me or stalks me or sends me hate mail or tries to do bad things to me. I was honest with them and upfront with them when we first started dating. And when I decided that I wasn't going to date them anymore, I told them exactly why. Whether or not they liked it's a different story, but they don't hate me. I don't get hate mail. They don't want to stab me. I don't, none of that stuff. I'm friends with 40 of the 50.
Yeah. I think that's a sign of a good ender.
Yeah. There's no reason to be a pissant. Be nice. Be nice when you're ending it. Don't be a nice guy. Be a good guy. Yeah. Don't be an asshole, but it's okay to be an ass.
But be an ass. All right, Paul. I appreciate you having you on, man.
I hope that I got you some content that you wanted, and I hope I didn't let you down.
You didn't, man. All right, I'll see you on TikTok.
Absolutely. Be careful.
Paul, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with everybody. And I'm glad that you've found a really great girl. It was a long time coming, brother. Long time coming. And I like seeing you happy. I like seeing you making happy TikToks. That's good. Makes my heart happy. And I wish you all the best. And I hope things truly work out with this one for sure. All right. That was our conversation with Paul. We'll catch you guys next week. Thank you for listening to Come On Man. If you are new to the podcast, I highly recommend reading How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne at least 10 to 15 times. I recommend you watch his coaching videos on YouTube, and I recommend that you engage with other 3% men in our 3% Man Facebook group. Links to all of these are in the show notes. If you like this episode, please give us a good rating on your favorite podcast platform of choice and share with all your bros. Now go out and get it.